things. In a world where challenges often seem overwhelming, things. There are voices that rise above the noise and remind us of the limitless strength within the human spirit. One such voice is Nick Vujicic. Things. A man born without arms and legs, yet filled with an unstoppable drive to inspire hope, courage, and purpose in millions across the globe. Things. His story is not about limitations. It is about breaking in them. It is not about what life takes away, but about what we choose to give back. Things. This speech, the speech that has inspired millions, is more than just words. It's a testament to resilience, faith, things, and the unshakable belief that we are all capable of greatness when we refuse to let obstacles define us. When we think about obstacles, things, our first instinct is to see them as roadblocks, barriers that stop us from reaching where we want to go. Things, reasons why our dreams cannot be fulfilled. But if you look deeper, if you choose to view them through the lens of growth and possibility, things. Obstacles are not permanent walls. They are stepping stones that can elevate you to greater heights. Things. Every obstacle carries within it the seed of an opportunity, an invitation to strengthen your character, sharpen your vision. Things, and unlock parts of yourself that would have otherwise remained hidden. The truth is, things. When most people do not discover who they really are in times of comfort, they discover it when life pushes them to the edge. Things. When they face what looks like insurmountable challenges, when they are forced to ask themselves whether they will give up or rise above. Things. That is the moment when obstacles transform into opportunities. Things. Because it is in those moments that we can decide to redefine what is possible for us. Nick Vujicic is the living example of this truth. Things. Born without arms and legs, the world expected him to be limited, to live a life of dependency, to settle for less than what is possible for others. Things. Yet he chose to turn his greatest obstacle into his greatest opportunity. Things. He chose to see beyond what he did not have and focused on what he could give, on the impact he could make, on the love, courage, and hope he could spread. Things. That shift in perspective is what turned his condition from something people would call a disability into a platform for inspiration. Things. And in the same way, you and I can learn to embrace the obstacles in our lives, to stop asking why this is happening to me, things, and start asking, how can this make me stronger? How can this be used for good? Things. How can this open a door I never imagined before? When you face an obstacle, you have two choices. You can let it define you, limit you, things, and control your destiny, or you can let it refine you, expand you, and guide you to a higher path. Think about every invention, every discovery, things. Every breakthrough in human history, and you will find a story of obstacles that became opportunities. Things. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Each failure was an obstacle, but he chose to treat each one as feedback, thing as a step closer to the solution, as an opportunity to learn. Imagine if he had stopped after the first 100 failures or the first 1,000 things. The world might have remained in darkness for decades longer. In your own life, there are obstacles that might feel like failures, things, setbacks that seem to rob you of time and hope. But if you adopt the mindset that every obstacle is information, every obstacle is shaping you, things, every obstacle is training you for the opportunity ahead, things, then you will never see difficulties the same way again. Opportunities often hide inside difficulties. Things, the job loss that forces someone to finally pursue their passion, the heartbreak that pushes someone to rediscover their worth. Things, the illness that teaches someone the value of health and gratitude. At first, these events feel devastating, but when looked back upon, things, many people realize that the very thing they thought had destroyed them was the thing that rebuilt them into who they were meant to be. Things. This is the paradox of obstacles. They disguise themselves as pain, rejection, and loss, but underneath they carry the potential for growth, things, purpose, and transformation. You may not see it in the moment, things, But one day you look back and realize that the obstacle was actually the doorway to a new chapter in your life. Nick often shares how, as a child, he struggled with depression, with bullying, with the thought that life was not worth living. His obstacle was not just physical things, it was emotional and mental. Yet over time, by choosing to focus on gratitude, by focusing on what he could do instead of what he could not, he found meaning and strength. The very obstacle that made him feel worthless became the very opportunity to speak to millions about the worth of every human being. That is the power of perspective. If Nick had stayed in the mindset that his obstacle was a curse, he would never have seen the opportunity to bless others through it. The same is true for all of us. The way you perceive your obstacle will determine whether it becomes a burden or a blessing. When you shift your mindset and begin to see obstacles as opportunities, you stop fearing them. You stop running away from them. Instead, you lean into them. Because you know that every obstacle you face is preparing you for something greater. Imagine a weightlifter in a gym. The weights are obstacles. They resist you, they make it harder, they cause strain. But without that resistance, there would be no growth, no strength, no muscle. Life works the same way. The challenges you face are the resistance you need to grow stronger, braver, wiser. Without them, you would remain weak and untested. So the next time life gives you a heavy weight, instead of complaining, remind yourself that this is the workout you need to build your resilience. This is the training ground for your destiny. This is how your obstacles become opportunities. Another important truth is that obstacles create opportunities not just for you, but for others as well. Your story of overcoming can become the inspiration someone else needs. Your scars can become someone else's survival guide. When you share how you overcame an obstacle, you light the way for others who are in the dark. This is why it is so important not to hide your struggles, not to be ashamed of your challenges. They are not signs of weakness, they are signs of humanity, and when turned into opportunities, they are signs of strength. Nick's willingness to share his journey, his vulnerability, his pain, and his victories is what made him relatable to millions. If he had hidden away, if he had chosen to remain silent, countless lives would never have been touched. Your obstacles are not just about you. They are about the opportunities they create for the people around you, for the people watching you. For the people who will find hope in your resilience. Sometimes the opportunity hidden in an obstacle is not immediate success, but inner growth. It may not lead you to fame or fortune, but it will lead you to patience, humility, compassion, and wisdom. These are qualities that cannot be learned in comfort. They can only be forged in difficulty. When you face rejection, you learn empathy for others who are rejected. When you experience loss, you gain compassion for others who are grieving. When you struggle, you understand the struggles of others more deeply. These inner treasures are just as valuable, if not more, than any outward opportunity. They shape your character, they mold your soul, they prepare you for the purpose only you can fulfill. And often, it is the people who have gone through the greatest obstacles who shine the brightest in offering love, kindness, and encouragement to the world. It is also true that obstacles force us to innovate. They push us out of our comfort zone and make us creative. When the usual path is blocked, you are forced to find a new way. When the door closes, you start building a window. This is how breakthroughs happen, not when everything is easy, but when obstacles force us to think differently. Nick could not use arms or legs. So he learned to adapt in ways others never think about. He found ways to swim, surf, type, and even play sports. His obstacle created an opportunity to explore the limits of human adaptability. And in the same way, your obstacles may force you to discover talents, skills, and solutions you would never have considered if life had gone smoothly. things. Innovation is born in adversity, not in comfort. Many times, people look at successful individuals and assume they had it easy, but the truth is, things. Every successful person has a story of obstacles turned into opportunities. Oprah Winfrey faced poverty, abuse, things, and discrimination before becoming one of the most influential women in the world. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison, things, yet used that obstacle to become the symbol of freedom and reconciliation for his nation. Things. Each of these stories proves that obstacles are not the end of the road. They are the beginning of a new one. They are not there to destroy you, things, but to build you, to prepare you, to push you toward the opportunity that will define your legacy. So when life puts a mountain in your path, things, don't stand there in despair thinking the journey is over. The mountain is not there to stop you. It is there to show you how high you can climb, things, how strong you can become, how determined you are to keep going. And when you reach the top of that mountain, things, you will see a view you could never have seen if the road had remained flat and easy. Things, the obstacle becomes the opportunity to rise to heights you never imagined. Faith and hope are two forces that can carry a human being through storms that logic and strength alone cannot withstand. Things, when everything around you seems to be collapsing, when the evidence points to failure, when fear whispers that you are not enough, things. It is faith that whispers louder that you can still rise, that there is still a reason to believe, that your life still has meaning. Things. Hope is the fuel that keeps the fire of resilience alive even in the darkest nights. Faith is not about having all the answers. Things. It is about trusting even when you do not understand. It is about believing that the path ahead exists even when you cannot see it. Things, that your life has purpose even when pain tries to convince you otherwise. For people like Nick Vujicic, who faced life without arms and legs, things, faith and hope were not optional luxuries. They were survival tools. They were the lifeline that kept him from drowning in despair. Things, and they became the foundation upon which he built his life of inspiration for millions. Faith is often tested when circumstances scream impossibility. Things, when you look at a situation and see no way forward, that is when faith is required most. It is easy to have faith when things are going well, things, but true faith is proven when nothing makes sense, when doors are closing, when people are walking away. Things. When your heart is heavy than answered questions, hope in those moments acts like a light in the tunnel. Things, small but strong enough to guide you step by step until you emerge into the brightness again. Without faith and hope, obstacles feel final. Things, challenges feel permanent and pain feels meaningless. But with them, you start to see challenges as temporary, setbacks as setups for comebacks. Things, and pain as preparation for growth. Nick could have looked at his body and concluded that his life would be a tragedy. Things, but faith told him that he was not an accident, that his life had value, that his story had power. Things, and hope gave him the strength to keep going until he discovered what that purpose was: building unshakable faith. And hope does not mean ignoring reality or pretending that struggles do not exist. Things. It means facing reality with courage while holding on to a greater truth that says your current situation is not your final destination. Things. Faith allows you to accept your circumstances without letting them control your destiny. Things. Hope allows you to endure hardship because you believe something better lies ahead. Together they form the backbone of resilience. Things, and resilience is what transforms people from victims of circumstance into victors of destiny. Things. Every person who has ever overcome great odds had to lean on faith and hope. Without them, the weight of challenges would have crushed them. Things. With them, they found the strength to rise again and again. Think about moments in your own life when you felt like giving up. Things, when the burden seemed too heavy, when the night felt too long. What carried you through? For many, things. It was the tiny voice of hope that refused to die, the belief that maybe tomorrow would be different, maybe help would come. Things. maybe a breakthrough was still possible. That is the miracle of hope. It does not need to be big things. Even the smallest seed of hope can keep someone alive, can keep someone fighting, can keep someone believing. Faith, on the other hand, things is like the soil in which hope is planted. Without faith, hope has no foundation. Without hope, faith has no fuel. Things, they are partners in perseverance. Things, and together they create the kind of unshakable spirit that no storm can destroy. Nick often speaks about how his faith in God gave him the courage to face life without limbs. Things, even when people mocked him, even when he felt alone, even when depression tried to drown him. Things, he held on to faith that his life was part of a bigger plan. That faith did not remove his struggles. Things, but it gave him the strength to endure them and eventually transform them into a message of hope for the world. This is why faith is so powerful. Things, it does not always change your circumstances immediately, but it changes you within your circumstances. It equips you with patience, perseverance, things, and peace in the middle of chaos. And hope makes you lift your eyes beyond the pain of the present to the promise of the future. Things. And that perspective is what allows you to keep walking even when the road is hard. Hope is contagious. Things. When one person dares to hope in the face of despair, it inspires others to believe that they can endure too. Things. This is why stories like Nick's touch millions. His life is living evidence that hope can transform despair into destiny. Things. When he speaks about the days he wanted to give up and contrasts them with the days he now spends standing on stages around the world. Things. Speaking life into others, it becomes a testimony of what faith and hope can achieve. It is one thing to talk about hope. Things. It is another to embody it, to live it out in the middle of impossible odds. And when people see that, it awakens hope in them too. Things. Your faith and hope can have the same effect. When you refuse to give up, when you keep believing, when you keep shining even in the darkness, things. You become a light for others who are searching for direction. Building unshakable faith and hope is not an overnight process. Things. It requires daily choices. Every morning you wake up and decide whether you will believe in fear or in faith. Things. Whether you will choose despair or hope. You build faith by feeding it through positive words, uplifting communities, inspiring stories, prayer, things, reflection, gratitude. You build hope by reminding yourself of past victories, by envisioning future possibilities, things, by focusing on what can be instead of what cannot. Just like a muscle, faith and hope grow stronger the more you exercise them. Things. The more you choose to believe in spite of challenges, the more resilient your faith becomes. Things. The more you hold on to hope even when things look bleak. Things. The more unshakable your hope becomes. One of the greatest enemies of faith and hope is fear. Fear tells you that you cannot. Things. That you are not enough, that the obstacle is too big. But faith responds with courage, saying that with persistence and belief you can overcome. Things. Hope adds its voice, saying that even if today looks difficult, tomorrow holds possibility. Fear tries to paralyze, but faith and hope energize. Things. Fear shrinks your vision, but faith and hope expand it. Fear makes you focus on what is missing. Things. But faith and hope make you focus on what is possible. This is why you cannot let fear have the last word. Things. You must feed your faith more than your fear. You must water your hope more than your doubt. If you give more energy to fear and doubt, things, they will grow. If you give more energy to faith and hope, things, they will flourish. Another important truth is that faith and hope give you resilience, not just for yourself, but also for those who depend on you. Things. People find strength not because they want to survive for themselves, but because they want to be a source of strength for their families, things, their communities, their children. When you hold on to hope, you give others permission to hold on too. When you stand in faith, things, you lift others who are falling. Nick's unshakable faith did not just carry him. Things. It became the anchor for millions of others who found their own strength through his example. In the same way, things. Your faith and hope can ripple out beyond you and touch lives you may never even meet. Faith and hope also protect your mind and spirit from the poison of negativity. Things. In a world filled with discouragement, where people are quick to highlight failures and limitations, things. You need an inner shield that refuses to absorb that negativity. Faith gives you the confidence that no matter what people say, things. Your destiny is not defined by their opinions. Hope gives you the courage to dream beyond their criticism. Without this shield, things. The negativity of the world can break you down. With it, you can stand strong no matter what comes against you. Things, and the stronger your faith and hope become, things. The less power negativity has over you. It is also important to understand that faith and hope are not passive. They are active forces. Things. Faith without action is incomplete. Hope without effort is empty. When you truly believe, you take steps forward even when the ground feels shaky. Things. When you truly hope, you work toward the future you envision, even if you cannot see it yet. Things. This is why people who have unshakable faith and hope often accomplish extraordinary things. Their belief drives their actions. Things. Their hope fuels their persistence, and their persistence creates results. Nick did not just sit and hope that life would get better. Things. He acted on his faith. He pursued opportunities. He kept speaking. He kept showing up. He kept trying, and eventually the doors opened. Things. Faith and hope gave him the inner strength to keep moving till his outer circumstances aligned. Sometimes things. Faith and hope will not change the outside situation, but they will always change you inside. They give you peace in the middle of chaos. Things. Strength in the middle of weakness and clarity in the middle of confusion. And when you are strengthened within, things. You are better equipped to handle whatever comes without. Things. This is why building unshakable faith and hope is one of the greatest investments you can make in yourself. Things. It is like building an inner fortress that no storm can penetrate. Life will always bring challenges, but with faith and hope, things. You will always have the strength to rise above them. Finding purpose beyond limitations is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make in life, because limitations are part of the human experience. Things, whether physical, emotional, financial, or circumstantial, everyone faces them in some form. Things. The danger is not in having limitations, but in allowing them to define who you are and what you can achieve. Things. True freedom begins when you realize that your worth is not tied to what you cannot do, but to what you can do with what you have. Things. Purpose is not about perfection or having everything. It is about contribution, about impact. Things. About living in such a way that your life matters to others. Nick Vujicic was born without arms and legs. Things. And by the standards of the world, he was expected to live a small life, dependent and limited, but he chose to redefine what limitation meant. Things. He chose to focus on his inner purpose instead of his outer condition. Things. And that decision turned what others saw as weakness into a platform for global influence. He is proof that purpose goes beyond physical ability. Things. Beyond resources, beyond what people think is possible. When you find your purpose, your limitations lose their power to hold you back. Things. Limitations are only as strong as the meaning you attach to them. If you believe your limitation is a wall, you will stop there. Things. But if you believe your limitation is a stepping stone, you will use it to rise higher. Purpose transforms the way you see yourself. Things. Instead of defining yourself by what you lack, you define yourself by the mission you are here to fulfill. Things. A person with no arms and legs can still speak words that move millions. A person with no money can still create ideas that change the world. Things. A person with a painful past can still build a future that inspires others. Things. This is the power of purpose. It transcends limitation and gives you a reason to keep going when everything else tells you to quit. Many people never step into their purpose because they are too focused on their limitations. things. They tell themselves they cannot pursue their dream because they do not have enough time, enough talent, enough connections, enough resources, things, enough confidence. But the truth is, the people who accomplish great things rarely start with enough. They start with what they have, things, no matter how small, and they trust that their purpose will expand their capacity. Purpose gives you energy, passion, things, and perseverance that limitations cannot take away. When you are driven by purpose, you will find ways to overcome obstacles, things. You will discover creative solutions. You will endure hardships with resilience, things, because your reason for living is bigger than your excuses for quitting. Nick often shares how he found meaning in speaking to others, things, encouraging those who were broken, rejected, or hopeless. At first, he did not know that his story would have such an impact, things. But when he saw how people responded, when he saw lives being changed, he realized that his purpose was not about what he could not do physically, things. It was about what he could do emotionally and spiritually. His limitation became irrelevant compared to the magnitude of his purpose, things. And that is the same truth available to you. Your purpose is waiting for you guys above the narrative of limitation and step into the identity of contribution. Limitations can actually serve as a gift when you allow them to shape your purpose, things. They make you more empathetic, more understanding, more creative. They force you to discover strengths you never knew you had, things. People with no struggles often lack depth, things. But those who have faced deep challenges often carry a richness of wisdom and compassion that others need, things. Your limitation might be the very thing that connects you to people who are suffering in silence, who need someone who understands their pain, things, who need someone who has walked through the valley and still found a way forward. That connection is part of your purpose, things. What you think disqualifies you may be the exact qualification that gives you credibility in touching others' lives. A purpose is not about what you cannot do, things. It is about what you were uniquely designed to do. Every person has something to contribute that no one else can, things. Even if you share the same talent as someone else, your story, your experiences, your perspective, things. Your limitations make your expression of that talent one of a kind. This uniqueness is what gives your purpose power, things. The danger comes when you compare yourself to others, when you measure your life by their strengths instead of your own mission, things. Comparison magnifies limitation, but gratitude magnifies purpose. The moment you stop comparing and start embracing your own journey, things, you free yourself to live fully, things. Nick could have spent his entire life comparing himself to people with limbs and concluded that he had nothing to offer. Instead, things, he chose to embrace his difference and use it as his voice. In the same way, things, you must stop comparing your limitations to others' advantages and start asking how your unique situation can serve a greater purpose. When you live with purpose, things, limitations no longer paralyze you, they motivate you. You stop asking why me and start asking what can I do with this thing. You stop waiting for perfect circumstances and start moving with imperfect resources, things. You stop hiding your weakness and start using it as a testimony. This is why people with purpose are unstoppable, things. It is not that they do not face difficulties. It is that their why is stronger than their what if. Their passion is louder than their fear, things. Their mission is greater than their limitation. They understand that even if they cannot do everything, they can do something, things. And that something matters deeply to the world around them. History is filled with examples of people who found purpose beyond limitations, things. Helen Keller, who was blind and deaf, became one of the most influential advocates for disability rights and education. Think things. Beethoven composed music that still moves the soul even after he lost his hearing. Nelson Mandela, despite being imprisoned for 27 years, things, became a symbol of freedom and reconciliation. Each of these individuals had limitations that could have destroyed their dreams, things, but they chose to live for something bigger than themselves, and their purpose carried them beyond their restrictions. Things. Their stories remind us that it is not the limitation that defines the person, but the purpose that drives them. Another truth about finding purpose beyond limitations is that purpose gives suffering meaning. Things. Pain without purpose feels unbearable, but pain with purpose becomes powerful. Things. When you know that your struggles are shaping you to serve a greater mission, you endure them with strength. Things. Nick has often said that if his story can bring hope to one person, then his struggles are worth it. This is the mindset of purpose. It transforms pain into impact. It turns scars into symbols of survival. It changes tears into testimony. And when people see that transformation, they too begin to believe that their struggles are not wasted. That their limitations can lead to significance. So your purpose does not have to be something grand in the eyes of the world. It does not have to be on a stage in front of thousands. Purpose can be found in everyday moments, in raising a child with love. In encouraging a friend who is hurting, in creating art that inspires, in serving your community with kindness. Purpose is not measured by scale, but by sincerity. It is not about how many people you reach, but about how deeply you touch the lives you encounter. Even small acts of purpose can create ripples of change that extend far beyond what you can see. And often it is those who feel the most limited who, when they step into their purpose, make the greatest impact. Because their story of overcoming resonates with the deepest parts of the human spirit. Finding purpose beyond limitations requires a shift in focus. Instead of dwelling on what you cannot control, you focus on what you can give. Instead of obsessing over your lack, you lean into your strengths. Instead of letting your past dictate your future, you allow your vision to guide your steps. This mental shift is what opens the door to possibilities you never imagined. It is the difference between living as a prisoner of your limitations and living as a pioneer of your purpose. The world does not need more people who are perfect. It needs more people who are real, who embrace their imperfections, who live with authenticity. And who use whatever they have to make a difference. Purpose also brings joy even in the midst of struggle. When you are aligned with what you are meant to do, your heart finds fulfillment regardless of external circumstances. You can be in pain and still find joy in serving. You can face rejection and still find satisfaction in living authentically. You can encounter setbacks and still feel peace because you know you are on the right path. This joy cannot be taken away by limitations because it is rooted not in what you have, but in who you are and why you are here. Nick often radiates joy. Not because his life is without struggle, but because his purpose fills him with a sense of meaning that surpasses his challenges. That same joy is available to anyone who discovers and lives out their purpose. Limitations may never disappear, but when you are driven by purpose, they shrink in significance. They become background noise instead of the main story. What once felt like a chain becomes a tool. What once felt like a weakness becomes a strength. What once felt like a reason to hide becomes a reason to shine. Purpose changes the narrative. Instead of saying, I cannot because of this limitation, you begin saying, I will because of this purpose. And when you live that way, you not only rise above your own limitations, but also empower others to do the same. The strength of perseverance and resilience is what separates those who merely dream from those who achieve. Those who start from those who finish, those who stumble from those who rise again. Perseverance is the relentless decision to keep going despite obstacles, setbacks, and failures. And resilience is the ability to bounce back stronger every time life knocks you down. Together, they form a force so powerful that it can turn ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Without perseverance, talent is wasted. think opportunities are lost and potential remains unrealized. Without resilience, every fall feels like the end and every disappointment becomes defeat. Things. But when you cultivate both, you become unstoppable because nothing outside of you has the power to keep you down permanently. Things. Nick Vujicic's life is a living testimony of perseverance and resilience, born without arms and legs. Things. His challenges were not temporary or occasional. They were constant and visible things. Yet instead of letting those challenges define the limits of his life, he chose to persevere. He chose to be resilient things. He chose to rise every time life tried to push him down. And today his story inspires millions across the world. Perseverance is not glamorous things. It is not the highlight reel people celebrate. It is the hidden grind, the daily decision to try again, to push forward things, to refuse to quit even when progress feels invisible. It is waking up after failure and saying, I will try again things. It is facing rejection and choosing not to let it define your worth. It is carrying the weight of doubt and still taking another step things. Perseverance is built in the trenches of struggle, in the quiet moments where no one is watching things, in the battles you fight with yourself when giving up seems easier. And resilience is what allows perseverance to endure things. Resilience gives you the mental and emotional elasticity to stretch without breaking, to absorb the blows of life without staying down things. It is not about never falling. It is about always rising, not about being unshaken things, but about shaking and standing anyway. History remembers resilient people not because they never failed, but because they refused to let failure be final things. Thomas Edison, after thousands of unsuccessful attempts to create the light bulb thing, said he had not failed but discovered thousands of ways that did not work. J.K. things. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Things. Abraham Lincoln faced multiple defeats in elections before becoming one of the greatest leaders in history. Things. These stories resonate because they prove that perseverance and resilience are more important than